Okay, hi all, and welcome to another tutorial video from Promethean and Bryce. In this one, I'm going to do an entire character design, no character in particular, just a normal female body. We're going to go through how I do the bodies, the top halves, bottom halves, legs, arms, hands, feet, and then we're going to do the face, a particular style of hair that I do, and then we're going to do some basic underwear, but just to show you how to get clothes done. This is just because if you can get all these steps done, then you can really get to work in making character designs yourself and practicing. So I'll show you how I do it the slow way rather than the time lapse. So I am actually using an X Pen tablet to do the modeling on this with a mouse again, as always. So you can actually do this just with a mouse, but I would suggest having a tablet just to get a bit more accuracy. But other than that, we're just going to get straight into it. So what I've done is we're going to delete this first, start up a new Blender, just Control save that as, we're just going to call it Woman Tutorial, and then just save that there. Then we're going to do what we always do, hold down the Alt button and the middle mouse button, and we're going to make sure these values are on X to the left there, Y pointing towards you, and Z going up. And then we're going to add image reference pictures, and we've got it on camera roll here. And I did just call it female reference. So I just found this sort of random reference online that I thought was actually fairly good. It's hard to find just quick reference through drawing. So if you want to do this, you have got to pick your character and then find it, the character you're looking for, and that will help. Or draw your own if you can. Failing that, just get a 3D model that's already made in the poses from someone else and use that as a base for your own. Now this one's going to be that way around. So we're just going to do that, and then we're going to duplicate, Control C this over, and then we want. So I'm just checking that's the correct one. So we want to put that at a value of -90 because we're going to go this side. Sorry. And as always, we're just going to move these so they're as much in the middle as they can be, and give them enough space so there's a little bit in and out. So you've got a little box section like that. And then all you want to do is add mesh UV sphere, my little trick that I always do if you've seen any of my other videos or any other tutorial videos. You just move that out of the way, and then go to sculpt mode, go to tools, go down to remesh, and then remesh it to a value of say 8 for the overall general one. And then that's ready to go. And then when you've done that, just go straight back to your model, make sure everything's incorrect, you've got all that set up. And then we're going to start by making the entire body through a very simple basic mesh. I'll always say this on my videos. This is how I always start. So you press Control C, Control V. You move it to where you need it to be, and we're going to do this in sections. So I'll quickly point out what we're going to do. Make sure you've reselect that, just so you don't have a double value. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this body section here where I'm circling. So the top section, then we'll do the breasts separate as well. The neck, the top half of the arm, the bottom half of the arm. The same goes for the legs. So top part of the legs, bottom part of the legs. This middle section, so the crotch and this top section will be together. You can separate them if you want. I just find that most posers you can sort of do a move around with them. You want to do the base bit of the hands, the palm, each finger and each part of the finger by itself, then an overall one for your head and 2 ears. Oh, and then also we're going to do the feet. So we'll just get straight away and start. So once you've got that, you place it in the middle as best you can. Then you go to object mode, sculpt mode. Grab your elastic deform, which is the tool I always use, and then grab X and Y, just so because we're going to do this at the back as well, and we're keeping it quite even. Then we're just going to do this bit here where the rib cage is going to go, and you just want to follow this line as much as you can until you get to about that top bit of the neck. And then, as always, remesh, and then just going to grab that in object mode, bring it down a little bit, go back to sculpt mode, and then this time take away the Y because we want to take away that value. We only want to move and keep it in the X value to keep it symmetrical. And then just move that into a nice rough shape. And then again, you just press remesh. And then as for the back, you won't have that in the rib cage, so you just want to pull that bit down again and remesh. So that's that first bit done. As top half, then you're going to get this bit here. So we're going to go downwards, apart from when we get to the neck. Reselect it, give it a bit of a smile. Don't worry if it's too small. If it's too big, it becomes a bit hard to push in the right place. But if it's smaller, we can move it easier. So we're going to sculpt mode, make sure this is big enough. Remember X and Y values. Move upwards, move downwards. The mesh is going to always move. So just keep moving it and then remesh it to help it out. So remeshing it will help get that topology correct, but it will also put it in a place where you can actually move it. So we've got that basic shape there, and then we're going to take off the Y, remember, and we're going to move that forward, that in. With the bodies, you'll find that you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit, because sometimes you won't get that exact reference. There will be some references out there that have that sort of crotch bit in the middle. I'm not sure how to explain that, because the crotch is the whole section around. But if you take away the upper section of the legs and imagine where this back's going to go, up into the front, into the pelvis, so the whole of that pelvis section, just try and imagine that. And with these references, as always, they're not going to be exact, especially because we're doing a basic reference one. So don't worry about that as well, and always constantly save. See there, you've got that basic shape together, nice and easy. And we're going to do the neck now. So Control C, Control V. Move it upwards. If you hear a bit of scratching on this mic, by the way, I need to get this sorted out because it's a little bit low. It's not a bad mic, I just need to figure my settings out on OBS. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of stuck around my clothes and that, because where I work, I've not got a place to put it. So if you hear a bit of scratching, I apologize. Anyway, so what we're doing, going into sculpt mode, always using the elastic deform, shrinking it down to a value that we feel is appropriate. Again, we don't have to be exact, so there's no particular way I can say to you which way to have it. And then you're just in and out, and you're moving it to that shape. And when you're doing the neck, just make it a slight bit higher, say about up to the nose. And then remesh. Then move to the side, take away the Y again, and then move the neck so it matches in with those. And there you go. Try and keep these crossing over smoothly if you can, these intersections. because when you join them later, it's going to make it easier to smooth them off. Then to just do that. If you can do, just smooth that off a little bit. So what we're doing now, give me just press the option mode. What we're going to do now is the upper section of the leg. Control C, Control V. Grab it, resize it, move across here. Sculpt mode. And then we're going to bring it up like that. Oh, apologies. What we're going to do first is press just the Y on this one because the value to each side isn't equal. So if it's equal like it is on the front here, you want to try and keep it that way. But if it's not, you're just going to keep the Y. So the back is still getting edited, but not the sides. Then you just, again, just trying to get the overall general shape of things and constantly remeshing it to help it out. The more you stretch it, the better it is when you remesh it. And again, it's up to you what you want to do on this next bit. But what I tend to do, and especially because you're following along this tutorial, don't make your knee on the top section. You can also do the knee separate, but when you bend, if you just think about how you bend your knee is always going to go with that second part of your leg, so the bottom part, rather than the top. So when you move it later for a pose, you'll find that it's the better way to do it. Okay, so now we do want to press the X on this one because we want to move the values here. Go back first and then just press object mode and just resize it a little bit and then move it to where that bottom section matches. That's just going to help you place it better so you have less time moving these around, because like I said, if you notice while I'm doing it, it's constantly going into areas. If you want to just get these areas correct, just hold the shift button down and smooth them off. And again, don't worry too much about the exact bit of this, because if you ever look at this sort of like butt section, it's not going to exactly match. You just want to get it as close as you can and then remesh. And just quickly go back to the front to make sure nothing's on there has changed, but always remember to click off that Y. And then there you go. So what at this point I'll do is I'll Control CV that, go over to right click and then mirror X global, and then just mirror it to the other side, just so we get an overview of what we're looking for. So we can get it all as one piece. So we can have a look at it. As you can see, that sort of butt section is not correct. Now you can actually add this in for the back reference, but what I tend to do is just go back over it and move it so you can at least have that section out. And then once you've done that, just delete the other one again, because what we're going to do is constantly be editing this first one, and then when we've done it, we're going to Control C, Control V, and move it across, just so we know we've got it looking correct. And then eventually we'll have it done, and it will go, the full one will go over, and that's when we'll merge it. But it's just to keep everything nice and neat, and make sure you're doing things correct. And then we're just going to do the second section, and like I said with this one, we're going to be adding this one as the knee section. So what you want to do with this one first, sculpt mode, stick the Y on that one, move up and down until you get that shape. So you're going to keep moving, remesh, and we're going to get that shape. And because you've got the reference quite exact here, you don't have to worry about too much. And don't be put off if you feel like things look a little bit wrong, and that's because you'll probably feel that they do, just because it's just a base mesh, you might feel like it's very off, but it won't be. You just got to sort of have faith in what it will look like in the end. So don't get disheartened if you think it doesn't look great at first. Remember to click the X on because we want to keep those values the same. And then again, like we said, we're going to do that back section here. And then we're going to pull this knee section out so it goes above that one. So you actually have a knee on there, just as simple as that. And you're going to go to object mode, and you're going to do what you did the first one, Control C, Control V, right click, X, global, and then just move that as close as you can to the first reference. So instead of doing the feet and hands first, what we're going to do is going to do these upper parts of the arms, and then we're going to do the face afterwards, and then we're going to do the hands and arms last, just because they're a little bit more difficult to do. Now this reference hasn't got arms, if you haven't noticed on the side. If you have a look, it doesn't have arms here. This ain't going to be a panic too much, just because you're going to have to place it where you think it's about right. Do it how you would normally do it. So you go to sculpt mode, take your Y, build it up, remesh, build it in. Again, if you want to see what it looks like from behind, use the toggle X-ray just to get it a little bit neater. And then what it's going to do is go quite equal. So you'll get the majority of this looking quite well. So what I would do is I'll just extend, if you keep the Y on, extend that top bit for the shoulder and decrease the bottom bit where the arm would go here. And also slightly bit below the shoulder. And you'll have a nice arm look. If you're struggling with how that does look like, and you didn't quite understand what I just said there, have a reference to the side, and you'll have to just eyeball it for that one. And then you just Control C, Control V, X global, move across. And that's all that section done. Remember to always Control Save, or Control S to Control Save. Control Z, CV, your piece here. Oops. Control C, Control V. Because even I make this mistake sometimes. And I've been doing this a few times now. So grab that one. Sculpt mode. Remember to click the Y on. And just get that shape. Remember, if you can't see it, just press the ghost mode. If you want to go back into your legs and do that, if you feel like you've not got them, exact, do that as well. And just make this a little bit over the wrist. And then with the side, you've got the same problem as the front one. So you want to take off the ghost mode. And all you want to do with this one is put it right next to it. And like the knee, the elbow will be on the second one, not the first one. Sculpt mode, take off the Y, put the X on, and just extend that arm bit and decrease that bit. And then, as always, take the Y back on and just decrease the size of these forearms just a little bit on the width. But otherwise, that should be it. Again, if you're struggling with what it should look like from the side, just get an external muscle reference and try and mimic that as much as possible. So Control C, Control V, mirror, X global to the hand. So far, you should have something a little that looks like that, with the bodies all nicely in. What we'll do first, before we do anything else, just Control C, Control V, because technically we ain't done the body because we need to do these boobs. And all you're doing with that is grabbing these, Control Z. You've already got the basic shape of these. So all you want to do is go on your ghost mode, which I call it ghost mode, but it's actually X-ray mode. Place them as best you can, and we see we've got almost the right shape here. Sculpt mode. No, none of this time. Just shape it so it goes a little bit more round and shapes in. Increase the size a bit and keep going between. And you'll notice that this area here goes inwards. So just take that bit off and just move it around. Again, you just got to get the muscle reference for, so say, a breast or something online. Just move it around, and then what you want to do is grab it all, smooth it off, and just make sure everything is as best it can in. And then if you've done that sort of section correctly, it should go towards the shoulder. With this female one, you can actually use the same methods. Obviously, you wouldn't need the breasts for the male version, but the same rules apply. And if we have a look at that, something I've noticed here is that these two references are slightly off. We're going to keep the reference on the second one, so I'm just going to bring that down to match. You've got a breast, and then you're just going to do the same thing you do with the other stuff. Is Control C, Control V, mirror, and then just put it there. And really and truthfully, that probably needs to be just a little bit out. So just delete that one. Control C, V, X global. So then you've got your breast, so you've got your whole section there done. The reason I say do the face next is because what you want to do is, if you Control C, Control V, we're not putting any detail in this face, but what we will be doing is just getting the basic shape as with everything else. So resize that, try and get it right in the middle. And then go to the side first on this one. Place the sphere round about where you would see that sort of spherical section of the skull. And then sculpt mode, you want X on for this one. Then you just want to bring that general shape round. So move it just like you would with any of the other stuff. And then you've got to again use a bit of your imagination on this one to get that side. And forget the nose. All we're trying to do is get that face very simple. So you want the forehead, the bit underneath the nose, the mouth, and the chin, a little bit of a curve up for where that's going to go into the head. And you've got that just a basic skull shape. And then you go back to the front, you keep your X value on, and you move all this to match that first one. Now, I'm looking at that going, is it going to change the one at the front? No. So you've got a perfect shape there, ready to go for a head. Just like everything else. All right, so once you've done that, we're going to start with the feet, just because they're a little bit easier. So Control C, Control V. With the feet, you'll find that, I'll say this in all my videos. If you've seen anyone, you'll notice. If not, I'll just quickly go through it again. They're always off center. Always. In this one, we've got a bit of a bonus because the side foot is actually the correct way it should be. So what I'm going to do is completely forget about this reference here. Ignore it. Match it to the second one. Match it to the one that actually is flat. And then once again, you're just going to have to use some external reference or your knowledge in the area to model the foot. And with this, we're just going to get this up to here, up to this bit where the toes start. So grab it, make sure you're on that selected. And then you go to sculpt mode. And on this one again, you want X, and just do as best you can to get that general shape. Foots are going to be a little bit harder, or should I say feet, but just try and get it as best you can. Move it around, flatten it off. Again, if you feel like you're struggling with doing it this way, just stick your X-ray mode on and do that. And then I'm just going to quickly go back to that original bottom leg. Actually, no, we'll leave it for now because we're going to have to go around it again anyway. So what you'll notice then, let's go to the front view, and you'll notice the front is going to be slightly off. Just put it where it should be, and then sculpt mode, pull that bottom section out, and then push that middle section in to get that general shape, and then also those top bits should be smaller. So that should be your foot. So Control C, Control V. And do that. And then, so that's the base part. We're going to do the palms next. Then we're going to go back and do the toes and hand and fingers. Palms, just the same sort of method. Control C, Control V. You've only got one reference here again. So stick as close as you can to the front one. And then either use an external reference or your knowledge of hands. Or look at your own hand if you've think you can use that as reference. And just with this one, you want to be using the Y value, not the X, because it's slightly off center. And then when we go to the side value on this, you go to object mode and just pull the green one in and shrink it and pull it across. Then go on sculpt mode again and then extend certain areas where you can. And just keep it, for now, I'd suggest just keeping it flat because we're going to build the layers on top of that. Once again, Control C, Control V. Mirror it across. And then you've got down there. So the moment you should have a really nice basic pose with no fingers. Now, we'll do the toes first. So grab one of these and make it, don't put it quite over the reference yet, just make it really small. Probably not that small, just make it big enough so you can accurately have, say, a toe size. And then go back to your side view and place it where it needs to be. And I'd say that still needs to be a bit smaller. We're going to do the big toe first. Just all the toes have a general basic shape. What we're going to do for the basic layer is take the X, bring it out, and then we're going to move it in, go back to sculpt mode, and we're going to go use the free mode this time. I'm just going to edit this so it looks like the bit just before the end of the toe. And then we're also going to raise that top section where the sort of joint will go. Then what you'll do after that is just duplicate that and bring it over. And then go back to sculpt mode on the second one. And that's where you want to try and make that look like a toe. So a bit wider at the top than at the bottom. And that's a real basic shape, but you've got two there. And what you want to do with that is grab it and put it to where the big toe should be. And widen it out a little bit. Then Control C, V, both of them. Bring it across. Press S to shrink it a little bit. And then decrease the width by using that red one again. Copy that over. I'm going to Control C, Control V, and just shrink each one a tiny bit as you're going along until you've got the correct amount of toes, and then obviously at the little toe, shrink it a little bit more. And then if you know anything about your feet, what you're going to have is this little toe is going to come pointing out a little bit extra. So you just want to go into that sculpt mode, take away the X, and just make that come round a little bit. And then the same goes with the big toe. Your sculpt mode. Oops, we release the X because they're all going to be duplicated over. So you're going to have to release the X in each one. And then you've got toes. Just as simple as that. Ready to go. Because we're going to join all this stuff later, remember. So just delete your old foot because this counts as all as one piece. Control C, Control V, mirror, X, and then just put that second foot where it needs to be. And just like that, you've got toes ready to go. For the fingers, which we'll do next, is you press Control CV. Do these from the front view on. Grab them, just make them, it doesn't really matter what size you make them at the moment, just make them a little bit smaller. And then we're doing the same thing that we did with the toes, but just longer. So grab X, extend this a little bit longer, make this top bit bigger and this bottom bit smaller. Remember to always remesh. And that is, every bigger bit's going to be a join. So from the front view, do that, and then go to the side view, and this back section is going to be the top, the back bit of your finger, and the front bit is going to be where the creases are. So you just do that there. Always make sure that first bit's bigger, and just lump them out. Just look so they look like joints. Then the finger's going to have 3 sections. So you want 3 of these. So 1, bring it down, duplicate over, bring it down, slightly shrinking it for the middle bit of it. Then for the top bit of your finger, you just want to go Control C, Control V, bring it down, again, resize it. That's 3 sections. Then go to the back view. So move to the back view and then make the good sculpt mode and make this bit, again, just look more like a top end of a finger and remesh it. Forget about nails are out for now. And there you have it, just like that. That's a finger done. Grab these, go back to your front view, move it over to your hand, resize it. And just put it where it needs to be. So we're going to say there. I'm going to say there. Just make that middle finger a bit bigger. Go back to the original, Control C, Control V, because those 2 fingers are the same size. And then the little finger, again, just slightly shrink that one and bring it back. Then grab all those ones together. Try and make sure you don't do anything but them, and then just drag them so they match off with that. And to be honest, I'm looking at that. I'm just going to press Control Z to get them all back again. I'm just going to resize them all slightly more. And then we'll just bring them down so they match in. And with the hands, excuse me, you're not going to have much of an issue. So with the thumb, all you can do with this one is grab all 3 of these, Control C, Control V them, make these 2 wider. So if you want to change anything from this point on, you've got to go into your settings and just make that one a 0. and then just sort them out, just because you want to get the width the width correct. And the only way to do that is to make sure they're level. So any editing we're going to do from now on, we're just going to make them level. So we just want these two to be wider for the thumb, and that to be bigger as well. And then just grab them, move them back into the position. And then with this last one, go to your side view, go to edit mode, or sculpt mode, sorry, and just increase it so it goes all the way out to make that section in the thumb. You don't have to have any of them on at this point. Just use the base one. Go back to tools, remesh, and just make it as close as you can to have that sort of part of the thumb there. Again, excuse me. Just bring it out, remesh, give it a bit of a smooth. Again, don't be too accurate on this one. You don't have to be at the moment. We can sort all the sizing out at a later date. And there's one thing we want to do now, and we want to just increase the thingy of the thumb. So you should have something that looks like that. Then all you want to do is just delete these two ones over here and grab this whole section. Control C, Control V, mirror, and move it across. And that's it. So that's how you do a basic body. I mean, you can pretty much, now you've learned that, you can pretty much go from there, because it's all the same sort of style. I mean, I'm going to show you how to do it, obviously. But if you want to start doing your own poses, you can just start doing that method. Now, this is the end of this is part one. Part two, what I'm going to do is we're going to do a full head. So we're going to do this whole face and the hair. Then what we're going to do on part three is do everything here. We're going to add muscle depth, and then we're going to join it. And then part three, after we, so part two, so part two is face. Part three is going to be muscle definition and join. And also part of that part three, we'll do a very basic, say, bikini or underwear, just to show you how to do clothes the way I do it. And maybe we'll give her a towel around this. We'll do a bikini and we'll give her a towel, just because it will give you a general overview of how to do clothes. But we're just going to continue that whole character, finish her off. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this part one. Keep an eye out for part 2 and 3, just to finish the set. I hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you've learned something. If you need any help with something or I've missed something, give me a comment. And like I said, if you want to support me, go to Promethean Bryce, buy me a coffee. All the ways to support me there. But just, most of all, just like, share, comment, subscribe, so I can boost the numbers up and help me out that way as well. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, and that's just this video for now. So wait for number 2. Hi all, and welcome to Promethean Bryce. This is the second tutorial in the 3-part tutorial series on how to make a character, in this case a female character. I'll be making the face and the hair for this one. It'll be stylized hair and a stylized face, but either way you'll sort of get that general idea. If you haven't watched the previous video, go back and watch that one. I recommend it, just because you'll see how I've made this base body and how you can sort of move that into a different pose later on, or just keep it the way it is for an animation version. So the first one's going to be body, basic body. Second one is how to do hair and face, like I'm doing on this one, and then the next one's going to be getting that sort of muscle definition and a basic level of clothes, which I'm said I'm going to go for a sort of bikini and then a sort of towel round just to get a little bit of, so it's not so over complex, but just something you can get used to. Anyway, let's just get straight into it. So with this one, the reference, as always, these references are always slightly off from the front and the side. So just when you're doing this, always sort of be prepared to pick one over the other. So this one I might probably use the side just because I tend to get a bit more definition here. But you can also look at the front using new mode at the top here for the face, and we've got the overall shape as well. Now, as you can see, this character is quite simple, quite simplistic. So all we're going to do is quickly go to sculpt mode, reduce that down. And first thing we're going to do is use the elastic deform tool. Just make sure you're making it a little bit smooth. Always keep that X on this point because you want the face to be symmetrical. And in this, you're going to have to keep going over and over until you get the look that you want. So it's not just a case of getting it right the first time. So first thing you got to do is just move this so it's down to, for now, about a 3. Should give you enough detail to start modeling stuff, and then just bring this back up somewhere around sort of 100 and just quickly rough out that shape again. If you find the neck's a little bit too high, don't worry about that, we can change it later. But we're just going through that mode, which is actually called the X-ray mode, toggle X-ray, just holding that over just to show you. And then all that's doing is helping you get that correct shape, just like on the body. But like I said, if you haven't seen that one, go out and check it out because it's a good way of getting how I've done that and also how I'm going to go moving forward. So we've not put that nose in or anything yet, and then you want to come out of it and just check that all that's correct. So smooth it off a little. And I feel like that chin's going to be pointy, so we're going to go to the front view and see if we can try and get that same. But as you can see, look, the front reference is slightly off. So you just want to kind of figure it out yourself. So just like I said, always just use your initiative and just sort of, I think that's quite sort of pointy. So we're just going to go pointy. And just keep sort of molding it around. We'll get that flat section later. Right, so now we've got that basic shape the way I want it. We want to add the way I'm going to do this is going to be nose first, mouth, then eyes, just to get the eye reference a bit better. And to do that, I start with a really simple. Now, with this simple face, you can't really see it, so you've got to use your imagination a little bit. But what you do is you grab the top tool here, which is draw. Just press remesh again, just to make sure it's remeshed. Get a decent sized thingy, see probably about 50, and just load a load of this on in a basic nose shape. Yeah, and just keep doing that until you get a general, and then do it to the side as well. And then just press remesh so it remeshes it, and then smooth it off. Oops. Just make sure it remeshes. And then what we're going to do is go back to the elastic deform tool and make sure. So keep using that smooth tool to smooth it out. To try and get that look as best you can. And then now that you're going to get more detail and you want to take it down to about a 2 or 0.02 and just smooth that nose off around. And like I said, just keep going round. And at this point, that sort of part where the eyes come in is flat, so you just want to grab that with the mesh tool and move it back, and then move the forward bit out. So you've got like a little indent for where the eyes will go later. Don't worry too much about sort of how they're going to look specifically just yet, and then remember to press remesh and always smooth. And then also just go to the front view. So go from your side to your front view and just make sure that nose then has like a little bridge where those eyes will go. So you've got that basic shape that should look something like that. And because our nose is not too in depth, we're gonna put some nostrils in just to show you how to do it. But we're not going to go too far. So I'm just going to quickly knock this down to about 0.15, just so I have a bit more to deal with. Smooth it off. And then grab that tool again and just draw some random nostrils in to where you would think they would go. Because all you're going to do, as always, is remesh it and then use the deform tool at a lower ratio to sort of make it smaller or bigger, whichever you require, and get that nose shape correct. And there's always going to be a little bit of an indent there. So what you do, your cheek will come out a little and the nose will go in a little. And then remesh. And then use your crease tool at this point, which is here. Go to quite a small value and just sort of add some sort of details in that will separate it and make it look like a proper nose. Again, if you need help with how a nose looks, just type it in on Google, find a reference, and then add it. So now I've got the nose at a particular detail. Once you start getting more detail, that's when you want to add a lower rate just to get that remesh more accurate, so you're not just smoothing over something and getting rid of all the work you've just done. And then, so if you want to cut something, if you want to add something, I just suggest sculpt draw and draw sharp if you want to take something away. I just found that's the best way to do it. I'm just going to add some nostril holes here, make sure that's not too small. You might notice that I don't tend to put an exact value in, just I kind of go as I go along. And that just sort of, so just helps me sort of get it there. I'm going to go one more down as well, actually, just remesh that. So there you go, you got some nostrils in, and you think, if you look from the front, you go, sometimes nostrils can go up, sometimes they can go down. So again, it's all dependent on who your character is. But I feel like her nose probably goes a little bit more up, even though you can't really see what's going on. We're going to add a little bit more thinness to the nose there. And just simple as that, you've got a nose. The reason I do the nose first is just because it gives that sort of overall shape of the face to make sure it looks correct. And then I go for mouth because it's just lower than that. It's a bit more difficult. And eyes last because your eyes are going to have an overall finish that has to be in the correct place. And to get that correct placement, it's best to do the other ones first. So with the mouth, we'll go back into the front view and sort of see whereabouts it's going. Now on mine, because we've got it there, you want to say it's about halfway between. So once again, you're getting this crease. You're going to add it to a lower value. Let's say probably about 25 here. And then just add a small line, either smile or not. We'll give her a bit of a smile on this one. And then remember to remesh it afterwards and smooth it off. And you'll have to keep remeshing and smoothing, or else you're going to get creases that don't look correct. And then you want to turn to the side and you want to grab your move tool and just correctly position these slightly out. And if you go to the side view, you see the mouth comes to about there. And then just get your 25 back if you can. Doesn't matter if it's a tiny bit out. Just make sure that crease is correct. Then you've got an overall shape of a mouth, and as you can see, it's slightly off there. So you want to grab that move tool quite big. And just make sure that the curve of the lip is coming out correctly. Because moving it back's just changed that way. So just want to move that in and around until you get the general shape that you want, which I'd say that was correct. So remember to always control save. So once you've done that, you've got the overall shape, the section of the mouth. You want to go back to the one where I said you're drawing on, make it a low value. Probably go for about something between a 40 to 50. Actually, we'll go for the 35. Then you just draw in some lips. And make that bottom lip thicker. And then as you can see, it's going to bubble out a lot. So what you want to do is go over any section that's not done correctly. And then remesh. It's always going to change the look of it. So you're always going to be going back over, but you're going to get a better outcome. So like I said, once you've done that, you go back to your original holder. Then try and shape out this sort of mouth. When you do this, just smooth it a little bit over after you've made a little curve, just because it can make it a little bit easier to use. But you also just want to make sure it's not too much over. Essentially what I'm doing with these tutorials is it's more, I'm trying to explain it as I go along, but I'm not the best of explaining things. So I'm just hoping you'll see what I'm doing and just sort of copy it. Just takes time and effort to keep doing it. I hope you don't, but my dog might cry because he's been a bit of a baby today. So if you hear a dog cry, it's because he's been a bit of a baby. I'm going to drop this value down to 0.8. Just neaten it up. And then do that in. All right, I'm just going to make a quick pause here because I'm just going to go let this dog out. I'm going to quickly finish this mouth here. And make sure that bit's up like that and that bit's down. Just make sure you get this. Just 1 second. And get that general mouth shape. So at that point, you should have what looks to be a general mouth. Now, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to make a quick edit here because I'm going to go let my dog out. Right, so this is I'm back now. Just let the dog out. So we'll continue. So like I was saying, once you've done that, you should have a basic shape of your mouth. If you want to keep going on that, just obviously keep going around to how you feel the mouth should look. Just going to edit a little bit there. Just keep it as neat as you can. And to keep smoothing it to get rid of some of those creases. And remeshing if you need to. So I'm just going to keep that one like that. So once you've done that, you should have a nice nose, nice mouth section, just to get the sort of bit just up of the lip. If you want to turn this to add, you can actually get a little bit of a line there, look. And then turn it to take away and just take a little bit in the middle. And then what you can do after that is go into your settings for your elastic deform and just make sure those lips and bottom sections are all sort of out in the way they should be, and then constantly smooth. So you go fully back there and there. And that's what I feel like it should be like. Like I said, remember, it's not exactly the most in-depth one here. I normally do this sort of like as an anime girl style face, but I want to sort of give it sort of half and half, not too realistic, not too unrealistic, just because if you can do this, you can do both. So once you've done that, that's when you're going to go into your eye section. And if you have a look here, you can see the eye is there. If you can't really see, what you need to do is go into your settings and just bunk up that, like I've said before, and get it as best you can, and then reuse that tool and bring it down. So you're bringing it down there, look. That's coming around there. And you just want to give it a quick smooth. And that should be where your eyes are going to go. I'm just going to bring a little bit that more round. Now with eyes, you can do this where you can sort of add them straight away, but I'll show you what I do. Now what I do to get the best eye here is I go to the mask tool. I drop the value of the mask tool so it's enough so I can draw something on it. So probably go for about 30. And then I use the front one. It's a bit high, so we won't use the front one. What we'll do is we'll use the side one. And on the side one, just draw an overall of what it would look like. So you know where it's going to go. And then just add a nice eye shape in. Our eyes are going to be quite big, so we'll just do that. So when you've got that sort of eye shape in, just make sure it's in that section. So it's in that section for me. I would say probably just reduce a little bit on this edge. So that's what I feel like it's going to look like. And then what you're going to do is sharpen that mask and then mask invert. So it's an invert mask. And then make this a giant size. So it's way over, and then go all the way to the one which I said take away before. And just on your mouse, press the click button a few times, and you'll see it go down and in. And then just smooth it, and then do it again, and smooth it again. And make sure it goes in quite a lot. And then what you do then is while you're still on that, go to remesh, and remesh it while the mask is still on. So we'll just quickly drop that down, then remesh it, and then clear the mask. And then after that, you should have an overall shape, and you just want to smooth it with the hold and shift. And then that way, you've got a nice clean in section of the eye. Now at the moment, it's going to be still wrong, so you just want to press Control Save. And we use the ball that we saved from earlier. If you've not got one of these and you do it from the top, just add a sphere in. Because at this point, we're going to be using this as the eyes. So you just grab that and drag it down. Just make it a correct eyeball size. If you can't think of what a correct eyeball size is, again, just use the reference. And the eyes will stick out just a little bit, so you want to do it across here. So again, to get that, you just use the reference, so we can go in and go, her eye is about there. So you'll see now that you've got a general shape of that eye in, and it will not be perfect, so I'm just going to quickly duplicate this over and try and place it as close as I can to the other one. So the eye should go around. So what you want to do now is go back into sculpt mode of the head. Grab your deform tool again and go around to the side view and just pull it around so it goes around the eye, and then pull it at the front. So So the eye has these middle sections. You have the middle bit here, you have the top bit here, and the middle bit here. So the left and the right. These left and rights need to be inwards. If you look at your eye, they're kind of at the same sort of level and back, whereas the front bit of the eyelid comes outwards. And you're just trying to follow that contour of the ball you've just put in to make sure the eye shape is correct. And then if you go forward, if you just keep pushing that one in. Again, it takes a little bit of practice, but then you've just got to try and mimic the shape of the eye. And you've got that. And then again, you as well, you just want to remesh to make sure it's correct. And smooth. Bring it back, bring it forward. And then if you still got a little bit out, which I have here, so I'm just going to quickly smooth this section underneath and then the top. And then we're going to grab the add tool, which we had before, get a decent value on it, go to the front and just add one pressured single layer over and one under. And then we'll do it again for the top. And just smooth it. Just give you a little bit of extra to work with. And if you still feel like I do here, where it's still not out correctly, just use the 3D view and just sort of keep going until you get that pull out correct. And then, like I said, you're always going to get a little bit of that one coming back in, so you just want to move that back. And then smooth if you have to. And just keep going until you get that shape correct. And around. And you should have a nice set of eyes, just like that. There you go. So that's fairly simple there. And just to get those last sort of finishing touches on the face, where you can see that there, you want to bring that bridge down a little bit. Like I said, arrange it so your eyes are correct. And then the best way I find to do it is to get the crease tool, make sure it's on minus, and just add those top layers and bottom layers just to get it. Again, you'll notice that there's like lines underneath the face, underneath the eyes, and you just want a little bit of depth within those ones. Don't go too overboard with it. And if you feel like here, like the brow section here, I feel like that should be a little bit more out. So get a decent value on here, which we're using the 70. And just create that brow section so it feels a bit more correct. And push that, and then push these bits a little bit more in. Again, this is all down to you and your character. I might not need to do this, or even if you're copying this particular character, just going to raise those cheeks a little bit. Just raise that there. And then we're also going to quickly bring out a bit of that chin just because it's a bit too pointy. And then, like I said, just smooth it and then remesh if you need to. And smooth. And you should have something that looks a lot like that. Now, with ears, you're going to some characters you may not need to do it. Again, it's all dependent on if you want a character, if the hair's moving. You're obviously going to want your ears in just because you'll see them in shots. But if it's just a pose like I do, sometimes you might not even need to put them in. Right, what I'm just doing here is just quickly using that crease tool and the takeaway tool just to get a section out where the chin goes. So you've got that now, that cut in. So that's all you're doing. You're just using the takeaway tool, smoothing, crease tool to get like a sharper edge. And this is where I'll quickly show you another trick before we go into the ears. Especially in anime girl faces or anime male faces. But you sort of jaw sort of has a flat to it. So if you go to the flat tool, get it a decent size and just go over a couple of times so it starts to flatten out. You get a little bit more of a neater jaw edge and it just looks a lot better. Just make sure you go a little bit around it, and then once you've done that, just smooth it. Hold the smooth and it will make it a lot flatter. Just something I've learned over time. So again, so that's that bit done. And you see it's really coming together now. So like I said, I'll let you into the ears. So what if you want to do ears, all you're doing is grabbing one of these, Control C, Control V, like we did before. Resize it to a general size of an ear. Or a tiny bit smaller in this case, and then just place it where you think the ear would be. Like in this reference, I don't really see your ear, so you just got to picture it or get some external reference and just move it around like you would with any other one. And use the move tool. And we're going to keep this quite simple because she's quite simple, like I said. Remember to always remesh and smooth. And then just bring it in like that for the back of the ear. And as for the forward part of the ear, just bring it down. And you'll notice that an ear goes sort of in, so you want to remesh. Bring this remesh to about, I'd say a 5, just put 5.5 for now, and then just cut in with the in tool here. So make it a little bit smaller and cut in, just make a cut in section there. Remesh, smooth, and do it again. Remesh and smooth. We're going to add a little bit to the back here where the earlobe would be here, and then we're going to also add in a tiny bit more for where the ear would go there, and then take away a bit underneath it, and you've got a general shape of an ear. And then since we've resized that, we're going to have to quickly resize all the rest of it. Again, it's just going in and around until you get the desired look. If you want to get something thinner, you just got to keep going back and forth over it. And then you should have a little bit of an ear like that, and then bring it around here to get a bit of shape. And like I said, it's only a nice simple ear on this one. We're not doing anything over complex. And if you want to add a little bit of detail on the inside, just use the crease tool. And you've got a general sort of ear shape here. Use the crease tool at the back just to get a little bit more definition. And there you go, simple as that. Now, I think that ear is probably a tad bit big. Maybe we're going to drop it a little bit, sort of give her a bit smaller, cuter ears. And just arrange it so it's, so if you just feel to the side of your head, you'll see that your jawline sort of matches with the ear coming up. So just try and do the same with your character. Control C, Control V, mirror, X, and then again, you're just eyeballing it. Try to get it looking as best you can. Opposite there. So there you go, just got a couple of views in. Simple as that. So that's that section done. Now, as for sort of eyebrows and hair, well, we'll start with the eyebrows. You're just going to get this pre-mesh. If you didn't watch the first video, you'll probably be a little bit confused with what I've been doing, but what I've done here is I've got a mesh sphere, and I've already remeshed it to a value of 0.8, just so that I can copy and paste it instead of doing it all over again every time. Just saves time. You just put it to the side. If that's confusing anyone, if they didn't come from a video where it's already done. And then you're just going to get this quite small. Put it where the eyebrow is going to start. That's quite thin and sharp there. So what you do then is you go into sculpt mode, No values here this time, just because you don't want that. And then as usual, you just get a big value on your elastic deform, and you're trying to get that shape together. Now, keep resizing the elastic deform for it. And like I said before, if you want something pointier or sharper, just do that, up and down, and then remesh. And once you've got a general shape, you can grab the elastic deform and just drag it as close as you can in to the eyebrow section. And if you find like it's popping out like this, just smooth it. Smooth it out and just try and curve it as much as you can. This can be quite difficult to do. You'll get used to it over time. But if you feel like it's not working, just smooth it off and remesh it to the point where you can get that curve correct. If your eyebrows point out, you're probably fine anyway. But yes, you just want to grab that out, get a general shape of it, push it in so it's got a sort of equal look to it. And then just like you did with the ear, you Control C, Control V, mirror, X, and across. And there you go, 2 easy done eyebrows. Okay, as for this next part, I'm just going to quickly pause it down and start again just to make sure we're good. So just give me 1 second. Right, so back on that. So we've just done the face. I was just quickly getting a drink. So now we're going to start the hair, and it's the same sort of jive as before. You're going to get one of these, Control C, Control V. And the first thing I'm going to start with is placing this sort of slightly around the same size as a skull. Just because what we're going to do is because we're going to be adding so many layers, what I like to do is remember this to have X on, let's add just one sort of thick under bit where your sort of hair would be, just to make sure it's underneath all the bits that we're going to do, it's quite thick. And you just want it quite thin, so you just got to keep going, as always, round and round, because we'll be adding those thicker bits later. And you just want it so it's essentially round this back side of the head here. And then just turn this to, say, about 0.65. And just give her a little bit of section there. So you've got like, imagine it as just if you was doing sort of a short hair look. And just have it all the way around. And you should have a nice overall look of something like that, smoothing it off. And then you want sort of this top section to sort of point off a little bit and go around and just smooth that off so it goes like that. So here we'll come around and just make sure it's remeshed. So that way you've got just a little bit of something to make sure that when you're getting all these strands in a minute, you will have something underneath it to make sure it's not just. So you don't have to really do every single strand. You can do a little bit less and reduce the power. Just make it a little bit more done properly. I'm just going to quickly sculpt that around a bit more like that. So once you've done that, You'll see what I mean when we actually get to the point. But now we're going to be using this idea of the reference, so you can just get a quick idea where it goes sort of around. If parts coming out here and here, and then you've got like this fringe section here. That's what we're going to be trying to do. And to do this these days, I use this method. So you're just going to keep grabbing these. Just 1 second. Yep, so sorry about that. Should be a quick edit there. And all you're doing is going to bring that around and resize up here. And we'll start with the back actually. So we're just going to get these looking strand-like. Did I add one before on the last video? I can't remember. Just grab one of these if you can and Control C, V it, move it forward. And get rid of the original one if you want to do the back. And we're basically going to be, if we just try and move this one here, getting this general look. So what you want to do, you want to keep the top section sort of thin, middle section thicker, bottom section really thin. So just go to sculpt mode. For now, just keep your X on and just drag it all the way down and then drag it all the way up. And then you've already got that shape. Just remesh it quick and then smooth it out. Then what you can do to get this bit pointier is just smooth it and keep smoothing it until it gets quite pointy. And now I've mentioned this before, but the best way to actually go about doing this is similar to what I said on the original video with the sphere. Do one of them like I've done now, move it to the side and duplicate and put it over because we're going to keep doing separate sections. So first thing we're going to do, if we notice that size, it's going to come around there. So you just got to use your eyes for this one, sort of mess around a little bit, play around. But I'll show you how to do it. So you go around, take your X off at this point, and then just sort of curve it round. Give it a little bit of, if it's coming around that way, just move it and smooth it. And then what you're doing is you're going to go to the side, just move that original one out the way quick. So move it a little bit back as well. Sculpt mode. And just make sure it comes all out of this section here as best you can. Just like that. So you can try and get it so it's inside the actual mesh and a little bit out. And then what you can do is object mode, Control C, Control V, and just mirror it for the other side, especially if your hair's similar. If your hair isn't similar though, then you're going to have to redo it. And that's essentially what you're doing for all of it. So you're going to Control CV. Sometimes you won't need to Control CV the original one. For example, on this one, I'm going to slightly make it bigger there. And just make sure it's all slightly different from that one that I've just done. You'll see now why I've done that sort of base layer, because in between it, it would look like there's no hair if I didn't do it this way. And then just keep moving out and try and just so it's got like a little bit of a section look like that. And like I said, you're going to keep doing that. And then if you can see V, if you want to fill in those gaps, that's absolutely fine. But I would suggest before you do that, just trying to get that overall basic sort of shape. And you can fill the gap sections later. If you wanted to fill the gaps quite quickly, I'll show you how to do that now. Just go into your object mode and just the original one and just move this sculpt, say, outwards like that and around. And that way you can get rid of it a little bit quicker. And then, like I said, just keep that one at the back. And because we moved that one now, you just want to delete that original one. Control C, Control V, just like that. And then we're just going to keep going around, just as you can see, each hair bit. Control C, Control V. And then with that, you're going to have to keep going sort of around. So you want to spin it just a little bit. You can keep these exactly the same if you want to sort of cheat and save a bit of time. But personally, I just like, even if it's just a small amount, I like to move it. So I'm just going to keep moving it like that. And then every time I've done one, I'll just Control V, Control C over. Just move them ones a little bit. But you can see how that's sort of coming along there. Obviously, we're not going to get that yet, so just Control C and V it. 1 second. Move that. Okay, 1 sec. Again, sorry about that. It's just, like I said, my dog looking after him and he's just been a bit mardy. So I've just put him away in another room for now, just so I don't have to keep stopping and starting. I was trying to get this all these videos so they were one shots, but it's not easy to do if he's barking in that as well. And I've had to sort of stop a few times anyway, but like I said, as long as it edits together nicely, which it should do. So all you're doing, like I said, continuing that back and forth, making sure each hair section's out. You don't have to be exact with this to this reference, especially if you're doing sort of realistic characters. However, it's the same as always with everything. You've got to try. You're trying to get it as close as you can to what this reference looks like, but it's not always going to be that easy. So just because this back here is all quite similar, that's why I'm just going to move different parts, sort of wave it out a little bit more and stuff. And then if we Control C, Control V that, again, like I said, just moving it to the other side once it's done that one. So you're just moving all these. So as far as like I said, you've got to move them around a little bit. Like before we move on, we're just going to go back to that original back piece, and just to get these looking like they're coming into it. So you just go to sculpt mode again, and get your crease tool, bring it down a little bit, and you want to see where the hair's going. So if you ever look at the original character from the front, sort of goes from about here. So this is where you want to take off your X and just, oops, So before I do that, just go in and just probably drop it down to about a 0.045, just so you're not having a thing. You just want a nothing, and that's where your hair marks go in. So you're going to go over here, and you're just going to keep going and drawing in lines where you've put the hair. Then afterwards, and I'll show you what we'll do after as well. So just try and make it follow that path. Because remember, this hair sort of goes around here. And then just to sort of get a bit of ahead of the game, also add some here. And remember, it's going to go around here and to the front. And then just move it to the side and then grab your move tool and just add it so it looks a little bit more like it goes. Oops, if you go back all the way, put your X back on before you do this. Just so it's doing the same to the other side as well. And that way, you notice how it sort of goes in now? And it feels a bit more round, it looks a bit better. And what we can do with these now is, say, grab this original one. Grab the original one, Control C, Control V. We're just going to add the, you notice there's a little gap here. What we'll do is we'll resize that so it's about there. And we're going to have this one come in sort of on level with that. And then sculpt mode. Remember to take off the X. Make it a big enough size and just bring that in so it curves around the ear. Again, if you think of you want to do it a different way, don't always have to follow my tutorial exactly at this point. It's going to be hard to do anyway. Once you get to the hair, and then just Control C, V, that over, mirror it, and then have it so it comes out just on the other one. Just like that. And then just have a look at that side here, and you see that what comes down. I'm going to do two of these actually. So if you Control C, V, that one, just say tilt it a little bit, grab it, and then that one comes sort of up and around under there, and then underneath the ear here. And then that way we have the front and the side. Sort of done there, because like I said, when you look at this reference, the hair here is going to be starting to come around this front section. So that's where we want to grab a new bit. Right, now we've done that one, so we're going to get rid of that one. Bring our original one back. If by the way, I forgot to mention it, just press the I tool and that will get rid of it and bring it back. And then you just want to do the same for the front. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to sort of get a general look by looking at these here and moving to the side and also looking from this one. just because you can't see that. And even if I was to go through the ghost mode or the X-ray, it's still quite hard to see. So it's best just to sort of have a look to the reference to the side. And just like I said, I play with it a little bit. That's what we're doing at the moment. I mean, a lot of this video is going to be, once I've explained it, quiet, just so that you can get, and you're just curving it around now for the front bit of the hair and the side bit. Like I said, so you just want to do that. And if you want to increase the size, remember to just move it all out with this deform. Everything here is going to be done using the deform tool. And bring it in so it goes around. And then just kind of like I did with the first one, just making it thinner, moving it out, changing the way it sort of goes around. Just layering it. And constantly Control C, Control V. And then, like I said, twisting it, maybe resizing it some. Again, you don't have to move it around every time if you don't want to, if you feel like it looks good already anyway. And personally, I'd say with these bit here, I'm going to actually mirror these. So duplicate them, mirror them, just because I think I can get a similar look out of that from the back. So just do that. And then with the original ones, I'm just going to feel like this side's a tad bit longer. So I'd grab the original ones and just make them a little bit longer. And then we'll be moving on to the fringe. In some ways, we kind of are there already. But again, we're trying to, I don't want to say like I'm rushing through this, but in some ways I am. But that's just because it's a tutorial video. Just bear in mind when you're doing it properly for a character, just like I said before, try and get it as close to that reference as you possibly can. Which means a lot of work going over it. The hair is probably going to take one of the sort of longest to do. But as you can see, I'm just sort of almost, like I said before, not cheating, but cheating in a way by duplicating it over, making it a little bit smaller and bigger for that side. Saving it. And then we're getting a little bit more different here. So now we're going to get the, oops, see what I've done there. I've actually accidentally moved the original one. So I'm just going to grab this one at the back. Just to make sure, like, unlike what I've done there, you don't accidentally delete the original one just because it gives you a little bit of annoyance. I'm going to do it again, which is why I always use it in the first place. But we just want to move that one there. So just Control C, V that, put one to the side. Then all we're going to do is try and curve that like the reference has. There's one there, which just sort of curves over. Sorry about that noise again. The dog somehow managed to knock his way into the room. Hopefully he doesn't bark this time. And then, so we want to curve this next hair around. So again, it's a case of grabbing this one, sculpt mode, bringing it around so it has a curve to it like that. Trying your best just to get that correct. And then dragging it around, dragging it around. And then from what I can see here, each sort of hair piece comes a little bit round and bigger. So all I'm going to do is probably extend that a little bit, go to the front mode, sculpt mode, and just each time progressively sort of bring it round. And then just do the same, Control C, Control V. Oops, make sure you press Control V. Oh, Control CV, drag across, sculpt mode. Again, this one might be a little bit of a long tutorial, but that's just because of the nature of how the hair is. You might have thought that the face was probably going to be the longest, but like I said, your hair is just got, because you're doing every other sort of strand. I'd say we can finish this with the next one. So if you go Control V, Control C, I'll give a little extra bit of a tip on this tutorial as well when I've done this. So if we go to sculpt mode, I'm just going to drag this around, make it nice and big because this is probably the longest strand here. And I've seen that these ones seem to be a little bit off as well. So I'm just going to quickly go in and make sure those curves are correct. There you go. So again, you can do what you think you need to do if you want to improve this going around, but I quite like the way that is. And we've left it so the hair comes around as well. You can increase the sort of front bit of that fringe if you want. Add some more bits, do less, or completely change the shape of this. Because I would suggest, if you want to make it a bit more dynamic, to get a new one and build a new strand of hair every now and then at the very least. Because when you're making these small changes, they might not look too much different. See that with the curves here, for example. So there you go. So that's basically all you need to do. So what I was trying to say was give you one little bit, the tip while I'm here, is I didn't actually add color on the last one. So just to make sure things look correct, I tend to add color, you'll notice. So to do that, all you need to do is go to sculpt mode, go down to the paint tool, and then I'm going to try and pick a skin color because I've not got a reference here where you can actually see the skin color. So you want it sort of cream sort of there. So that's a nice color. I'll use that. So yeah, you just go on each one and you go sculpt mode. It should already be on it. So just grab a big value. And this way, you kind of get a better feel for how things look. If you are doing this, by the way, make sure you go onto this section here and make sure it's selected on attribute, or else it will go off. And I tend to find that Studio is the best overall, but if you want to get the best looking one, go to flat and add shadow and cavity, and go to world. And I think that sort of gives it a nicer look. And I'm just going to go on this. I might zoom the video up at this point, since I'm editing it anyway. And then what we're going to do is going to go through all of these and make sure every section is done. Now with maybe not zoom it up actually because I need to show something else. Just if you do this, just do one side each. And then duplicate it back over. It can be a bit of a pain. I know it's too late for all of us in this tutorial video, but in future models that you'll make, even I forget to do it sometimes. You'll notice in my normal videos that I'll do them later, but if you can, try and do this stage as you go along. So once you've got that basic shape, then add the color, because you can always turn the attribute section off, which I'll show in a minute. But as for doing this, it takes a lot longer than if you was to do it straight away as you put them in. Because like for the hands, for example, we had to duplicate them over. So if we'd already had the value in, we would have saved a lot of time. And then all we're doing the same for the legs. It may be that I actually put this all up as one full tutorial actually instead of a three-parter. But I'll do it in three parts and I'll just add little chapters instead. So forgive me if you're watching this and now it is one. And if it is three separate videos, then it will just remain the same. But either way, you can go through this entire video or through the sections. And I'll put in the comments. If I do make it one single video, I'll put in the comments a sort of timestamp for where, sort of say which section you need to do. So let's say you've already done part and you want to come back to it later, or you just need help doing face and hair. So you've done that. Once you've done that, delete the original ones here, and then Control CV these ones. And as always, try and get it as close to the original as you can. And duplicate them ones over. And the same goes for these. And it's just like that. And then we'll give her um we'll give her brown hair. Like a light brown. Again, you don't need to copy this exactly. You can make blonde or even blue hair if you want. But like I said, this is just a practice video, so either way, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be used. And I will just cheat on this one just because I don't need to worry about the attributes of these. So if you do want to save a bit of time, it will mess up your X and Y values if you do this method, but it can save you time in the long run if you need to do something like hair. If you do this method, just be sure that you've actually done what you need to. Just make sure you've got them all. And then press join. And then you can go to your sculpt mode and do it all as one. But I didn't do that with the body because we're going to be making some edits later and I don't want to mess up with the sculpt value. And you'll see now what I mean by that under section. Look, it's now correct. Now, if you miss something like I have done here under the head, the reason I used not only is flat sort of the best to make it look the best, if you get rid of X shadow and cavity, you can actually go to sculpt mode, go to the paint and actually select it because it will be the correct color, and then you can add back the shadow and cavity and then just add where you need to. Like I said, just as simple as that. Just added some colour just to make it a little bit expressive. I'll probably add some eyes in on the next section or the next video. And we'll continue this on the next one. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Hopefully it's helped you out a bit. I know how hard it can be to do faces and hair. You'll notice that I've done mine quite quick because I'm sort of used to it. But if you don't worry if it takes you a bit longer, because it takes a bit of time to understand sort of where the lips and mouth is, because when you're getting that actual shape, that's the hardest part. And then it's just adding and taking away. If you don't come from a place where you was doing clay and you're just going straight into 3D, it's actually quite hard to do. But yeah, just grab a toy or, like I said, find some reference, and you'll get the general idea for it over time, and you won't need to worry about it. But yeah, like I said, that's all done. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, all that jazz if I'm doing it separate. And then wait for the next one, which will be the body muscle mass and a slight sort of bikini, like I said, and get that over there. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Go support me at Promethean Bryce. It's Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to help me out the most, or just like, share, comment, just to get this into the algorithms and get me some more views. But yeah, thanks a lot. See you in the next one. Hi all, and welcome to Promethean Bryce. This is the last in the set of tutorials on building a character. In this series, we're just doing this particular character in the back, this just simple woman. And we're going to do the base body, which we've already done in part 1. Then we've done the face and hair in part 2. So if you haven't seen them, go check them out already. Or if you just need help doing clothes, this is the sort of one for you. But in this one, we're also going to do just finals to tie all this body together, make it a little bit more sort of in depth. As you can see in the backgrounds here, you've got sort of a little bit of that stomach coming in and that. All this top sort of clavicle section and these knees. And then afterwards, like I said, we're going to join it together and make a bikini, just like a sort of top section and bottom section with a towel around, just to make it a little bit cool and have like just make it a little bit different. So sort of like a summer theme. But like I said, we're going to try and go straight through this. If this is all as one video, I apologize for saying the entrance 3 times, but if it's not, if it's a 3-parter, as in 3 videos, just go back to the other videos and let's get started. So the first thing we want to do before we do anything else is to go in and just have a quick check around, start where we'll start. So we'll start right at this top bit. You go into here, you go into sculpt mode, and you're going to be wanting to bring this down after you've done your colors from before. And we're going to mainly use the crease tool. And you just want to remesh, make sure it's remeshed a little bit lower value, so let's say 6. Just because we're going to be adding some details into this. So just make it big quick and then just smooth it a little bit more. And then we're going to use an external reference. Just type in online female muscle reference and you'll get a similar one. It doesn't have to be the exact one as I'm using, just as long as you can sort of see the female body with the sort of muscle definitions. If you know it already, if you're good at enough, then you can just start straight away. There's a little bit in the reference here, but we're going to use this for the back, for example. So I'm just going to put some lines in here. And then all we're doing is just using that crease tool to sort of add a section in and then sort of smooth it a bit afterwards. And just give it a little bit of depth and then just remesh. And in fact, I feel like that's going to be a bit more. So let's take it down to about a 4, actually. The higher the value, like I've said before, the more definition you should be able to get. So just make sure you've got that in. And you just want that general shape, so don't sort of do it too harsh. Just always do the shape and then smooth it around afterwards. And then just do that. Just add a little bit in. Not too much, nothing too over the top. And then we're going to do the same for the clavicle here, which is quite high. And with this, what I tend to do is come in and just add that top section there and then dive it down and just a little bit of smoothing in. Just like that. Adds that little bit of definition in because she's got quite a strong looking clavicle there. And then we're also noticing a little bit here that this probably should be up a bit more. So we're going to curve that up and around and then that's shaped nice and neat. And you're just going to keep going from one to the other, sculpt mode. Remember, bring it down, like I said, we just said 4. If it's less detail involved, you don't need to put it this low, but we'll just keep 4 consistent over. Then, like I said, just increase the size of this again, of this tool, and just press Shift and just Control Shift. Sorry, not Control Shift, just Shift. And add your details in. And we're going to use the reference for this one. So if you look behind it, she's got quite a in section here and around, and then sort of down as well. And we're going to want to cut some out here, so we're going to grab that cut tool and just sort of bring it down a little bit. She's quite skinny. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of difficulty seeing that, so we just want to bring the brightness around just so we can see it a little bit better. And that's all you're doing really, is just keep going around it. This is going to be the sort of the easiest tutorial out of the set. After you've done that, you just want to curve that in with the tool and smooth it around to get a belly button. And then all we're going to do is go to the side on this one, grab a selector and just bring this out just so it matches again with the top section. And you also just want to do that as well with the top section. Just go to sculpt mode and just bring it out, get it close to that. And you should have something a little that looks like that for now. And we also want to get that sort of pelvis section in. So you go to sculpt mode. It's also going to be important for later when we get the bikini in. Just do that with it. And just bring it down a slide, tad there. And then if you find yourself going over something again, just redo it. And then always just remember to remesh so you've got that section correct. You can add sort of private parts if you want at this point, like sort of nipples and stuff, but just obviously because it's a YouTube video, I'm not going to be doing that. So we'll just keep with quite simple look here. Whenever you do these legs, it's just like before. You just want to do one side first and then duplicate the whole set over later. And then it's quite simple here, so we're just going to come a bit more in there. And then you want to just shape the sort of backside as well. And again, if you don't really want to keep the shadow on there, what you can do is go to your world and go screen, or go to one of your studio views, which is probably the best to do, to be honest. And just shape this the way you need to. Bit of a curve in there. And then just a bit round there as well. Don't want it to be too harsh though. And just like that, you should have a nicely shaped section. And we're just going to increase that one because if you can tell, it's a little bit off there on that top section. And then just smooth it around like that. And then just go smooth a little bit underneath that so it's not as harsh. And then all you're going to want to do is put in a little bit of a bit behind the back here. And then after the bottom leg, she's got quite a skinny section. So all you're going to do with that is make sure you're on sculpt mode, change it to the same value. It just helps later when you join it together if you keep them the same value, whether or not you're using that much detail or not. So if you pick whatever your top detail is, just sort of pick that way. And I'm just going to keep that one sort of like that. So there's a tiny bit of detailing, not too much. And we're going to also add the ankle sections here. So we'll just get this tool where we said where we add, and then just add that there. And add a bit more down here. Just as simple as that. Remember to always save as you're going along. And I'm just trying to think about those feet. So if we go to here, go to sculpt mode, what we'll do is we'll bring that down a little bit. Bring that out a little bit. Sometimes you won't need to do an exact or do an overcomplicated base section. It might just be a case of going a little bit more over it or adding the tiniest bits of detail like we are here, and then pushing it down a little bit more and in before we join it. And then you just want to try and get that as best out you can. Remember save, and then what you can do after you've done that one, as long as you feel comfortable, because if you don't feel comfortable with what you've done, you can always go back and do it by taking the other side. But if you think you're comfortable like I do, just Control CV after you've deleted the other ones. Like I've said in other videos, sometimes I'll keep parts to the side if I feel like it needs editing. Looks good to me. We didn't do that back section of the back, so if we just go back on there, all we're doing here is a little line there. And a little one there, where the sort of the butt cheeks go. And then, because she's quite thin, you see, we've got to just add some of that back in, like that, and bring it back. And then try and add some here. Try and get these parts to sort of merge in as much as they can while it's like it is. But you're only going to be joining them later, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. And you can really see how that's coming along just with that sort of tiny bits of editing. And like I said, I'm using just a reference to the side. It's got the reference that I'm using has a front, back, and a side, and that's kind of what you want because you won't. If you can only get one, you'll struggle with how it looks from either side. Again, if you know what you're doing, if you've got a grasp on what muscle mass looks like, then that's great. But it can be a little bit difficult to do. So, like for example, this arm here, that's going to go a little bit different at the back than it is at the front. And we don't want it to have too much muscle depth because from the sort of reference that we've got, she's not overly muscular, but you can see sort of that definition. So for now, we're going to leave the hands pretty much the way they are. Because I feel like I said, when we first did them, we got quite enough detailing. And the same goes with the feet. So what we're doing here is just adding a little bit of depth to that. And I quite like the way that is, apart from the palm. So we'll do the palm. And then hands across as well. So all we're going to do here is just try and get this a little bit more looking like a proper hand. And to do that, we're just going to use these crease tools. Crease a bit here, crease a bit here and here. And then just take a little bit out as well. We'll use this one to take it out as we want it a bit more flat. But again, that's something we're going to be doing sort of more later. So if you can, try and avoid doing too much in this. The only thing I'd really suggest doing, focusing on here, is probably adding a few sort of knuckle sections. Maybe bringing that out a little bit to attach to that. And then just details, small details that go between the knuckles and the hand that. Well, it's just as simple as that. And then we're going to quickly go down to here as well. And after that, we're going to do the neck, and then we can get some stuff joined together. So what we want to do here is just add a let me use that instead. And we're also going to use a bit of the flat tool here, just to make a little bit flatter edge here and here. Which I should have done first, but I completely forgot. So there you go. Sometimes you forget stuff. And then you've just got to go around and just put it back in. Then again, I also feel good about that. So what we're going to do is delete that, delete that, delete that. And add these here. Sort of as close as we can to the original. And it's looking really good here. So what all we really need to do, just going to quickly say increase that side a little bit. And like I said, we're just going to do the neck as well. So, and again, it's quite a simple one. This one, just lower it down to the same values. Increase the size. Then add some muscle depth for that neck. Simple as that. And then try and match it with that. And with that one, you just want to do a similar thing. Bring it down like that. And then add another little bit of that to the back, just like that. And we're quite all right here, but sometimes you will need to do this a little bit more, just to make sure that curves around into the neck, but we've done a good job originally. So we'll just save that like that. And the breasts here, I feel are correct. So we'll leave them the way they are. So that's all for that first part of the section. This video is just, like I said, going through, get your reference to the side here, and add as much detail as you want. You might, like I said, with mine, I don't feel like it needed see too much. Right, I noticed a few little spaces here where I've missed some. So you remember what I said in the last video? If you missed any color, go to sculpt mode, go to your flat section over here. I'll show you in a minute. Go to your flat section, take off the shadow and cavity. Right, do this color select like you would on, say, a drawing software, and then just quickly go through the ones where, if you can tell, if you noticed here, like I just had a few gaps, so I'm just going to quickly do them. And then we can put the shadow and cavity back on, and then we can go back to Studio if we want, since we'll be doing a bit of editing. But I think she looks really good on both that and that. There is something I actually missed on the last tutorial, was eyelashes, but I'm going to add them as sort of a close overlay section. But that's looking good there. Now, before you do any of the next parts, just make sure you're happy with it, because once we do the next ones, you can't really go back. So what you can do is save a separate version out. Just save as, and then save it as close or something, and then that way you can go back to it if anything goes wrong. But what we're going to do is, because we're adding a bikini in here, I do these a little bit different at first, just to make sure everything works. Well, I'll show you what I'll do first. And usually, I would grab these to the side to make the clothes and pull them across and duplicate them. But because I want to keep this as the pose it is, what I'm going to do is actually put her in a T-pose, just because I want her in that sort of T-pose. So I'm going to bring her around that, drawing her correctly in. Then we're going to bring this hand round a bit, sorry. Just so it's flat, or as close to flat as you can get. And that way you have a T-pose. And if you're doing that, I'd suggest just duplicating the other one, just so you haven't got any duplication issues. And then doing what we did with the first time, and just putting it in here. I'd say that was a little bit further in, actually. And then because we've done that as well, you'll see that the breast section will actually move with it. So what you're just going to do is grab your sculpt mode and just drag it so it goes a little bit more up like that. A little bit more up, and then that. And then it's going to curve round, you see. So you want to try and get it just so it looks a bit like that. But you just want to make sure it's looking as if it's going into this muscle section here. And then just increase that bit so it balls around a bit more. And back there. And then just, let's remesh this to a 4 since we changed it. And just smooth it off a bit. And then just delete that original one there and duplicate this over. Mirror it across. There you go, and then it should just look a bit like that. And when we add it together, it's going to look better. But there you go, you've got that one. Now, a little trick that I'll use, which I've mentioned before in other videos, I think, is I'll add a cube. And there are actual ways to do this, but I used to use in the software Maya, but I can't remember, or I can't really tell sort of how to do that in this. So what we'll do is just place these in the middle, and you'll press this cube in the middle, and you sort of shrink it a little bit. Try and get it exactly in the middle as you can. And you go from one of your values, which is going to be my stomach here, because we knew we drew that exactly in the middle. So that should be the middle. So if you can see, we have a few things out. So what you want to do is grab the ones that you believe to be out. And just try and go over so you've got as much as an accurate. So sometimes the best thing to do is just do that. And you'll see that those two match. And now that's fine. Again, with the top here, we feel like that's a little bit over, I'd say. So if we go like that, in fact, if we just hide that a second, we can grab all the hair as one and the body section here. Make sure you've got everything. Just drag it a little bit over so it's in the middle. I'm trying to use that nose as a bit of a reference. Now that's more exact in the middle. And as for the arms, we're just going to extend this over. And as you can see, one thing we've noticed here is that's not slightly over more. That should be slightly over more. And that should be where that arm goes. And as you can see, it's not quite there. So you grab it and you want to push it so it's onto that edge. You might not be 100% exact, but you can get damn well close doing this method and then just hide the cube away for later. But it just helps you make sure your body's pretty much exactly in the middle. And then just save that. Because the next part, what we're going to do, you need everything to be exactly in the middle. And we're going to do the body section for this bikini. So we're going to grab all of these and we're going to do it in parts just because it's going to increase the speed, the power that you're going to need because it's going to join them all together and create a new mesh, which is going to take more effort to model. So once you've grabbed all your, shift selected all your parts that you need, which we've got all those middle parts, if you have a look there, just move it to the side, make sure you've got the right ones. Right click and then press join. So they're all one unit now. And to get them all together, to make them look all nice and uniform, you go into, and this is why I said keep these values, by the way. You go into your mesh settings and you press whatever you was before, or if you want more detail, and you press that. But we'll have a look. We'll see what that looks like. So 4 is too low, so we're going to drop it. I'm going to say to 2, we'll just halve it. And what you should see is that I would still say 2 is a bit too low. So let's go for a 1.5. And then shift select it so you can go into your smooth or grab your smooth tool and then go over all of these parts so that they correctly join. Lightly over ones that have harsh edges like the boobs. And then just keep going over until these lines merge together. And don't worry if you go over any of your last work that you did, you can quickly go in and sort it out. And then you're just looking to keep going over it and smoothing it so it gets the nicest look it can possibly get. And some of these sort of angles and that you still want, so don't worry too much about if they're quite strong. Because, for example, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually increase the size of this and just pull this sort of waist section out and push these down a little bit. And we're also going to do the same for this. And we're just smoothing it around. And then, like I said, once you've got that desired look, if you've lost a few things on the way, just grab your tools and go in and just sort of add some more little indents, like we'll sort of get some ribs there, for example, and bring back a little bit of that and that, and a bit more of that to define that, a bit more of that to define that sort of section there. And then we want to define that as well for obvious reasons later. And then probably just a little bit here as well. And that way you have one whole selected unit, and I still think that probably needs a little bit of work here as well. And then we're just going to smooth it. Again, just keep going around. Make sure everything looks as neat as you can sort of get it. And use your mesh move tool to just sort of move sort of sections out if you need to, or in. Because I'd say that would need to come out a little bit more, but that's now a lot better. Just want to grab that there. And then we've noticed as well that that's going to come out a little bit less. And you want to just like add those sort of sections in. And we did forget that as well. So just make sure it's all done nice and neat. I'd say that was ticked off. So there you go. Again, don't worry if it takes you longer, just that I'm used to doing it by now because I've done it a few times. Right, because when you're doing clothes and anything that attaches to the skin, you want to be doing this method. You can also drag it away as well with the method I'm going to use, but this is more for skin tight stuff. And because we're doing a bikini, which is going to be this whole top section, what you want to do is grab your section that you just got, go into sculpt mode. Remember, it might take a little bit longer once you've done this. And then you want to go into your mask section, which is this one here. And then you go in and you just draw yourself quite literally. So you grab, say, a value of, we're going to add this one in, let's say 10. You want to make sure that's at 100 and on plus. And we'll do this quite skinny here. So in fact, we'll use 20. And then to draw the shape of your sort of bikini in. Oops, just press the wrong button there, sorry. And then just increase the size a little bit if you want to get a bit of sort of thinginess, but just remember that original size from when you're drawing the sort of thin bits in between. And you're just going to keep doing that across until you've and then this is where, like I said, you're going to keep remember your value, go in, and sometimes your tools will go a little bit off. As you can see, I wasn't quite exact with that last section up, but it's okay. We can move it around a little bit. If yours has done that, I'd suggest going back. Because I'm only doing a tutorial, I'm not too fussed with it. Just, keep an eye on it. And then we'll sort of do it around like that. Increase it. Block it out. And we'll do it sort of a low cut one. And all you want to do is go around, grab your one there. Again, you've got to try and keep this quite neat. And if you've done what I've done here, for example, where you've gone probably a little bit too over, you can just press the -1 here and trim around. And then you've got like a nice bikini shape there. And then because we're doing this as well, we can get the top section done. So let's draw a bikini sort of line here. And we'll have it go under. Just be sure when you're doing in 3D space, when you're drawing stuff on there, it's going to get a little bit difficult to see and you might go over. Don't worry too much about that. and then in, and then again, you're doing the same thing. Here with this one in particular, I'm going to do the whole thing here because sometimes I would do this next bit a bit outwards just because if you're thinking about it, it will probably just go straight over the top. But again, it's just sort of a little practice for a tutorial. And if you wanted to, you can make it a little bit different. So all you want to do is make that shape better. Come round. And then we want to do the same for here. So we'll do sort of traditional sort of look. And all you're doing there is making sure all this sort of goes around. And then fix the sections here. So that way you've got it drawn there. To make sure you've got no extra bits done. And then what you want to do is go to mask, sharpen mask. Sometimes you can go the other way and it can make it look neat, but we're going to stick with a sharpen mask. And then once you've done your sharpen mask, go to mask, extract, and then put the value of 5 or 4 like I've done here, 0.5 and 4. Press OK. And it should look a little bit like this. And then you go to modifiers and you just change that modifier so its thickness either goes backwards or forwards. And I've done it backwards because the way I do things goes out a little bit more. And then just change this edge data all the way to max. Just helps it get a bit neater. And then press apply. If you do not press apply, you'll be in trouble later because it will keep things. What's it? It will make it harder to do. One second. So we've done that. So what we're going to do now, to get that color difference, we'll just quickly. I think we should. Doesn't really matter which color we make it, but we'll just make it like a sky blue or something like this, and just go over the top like you would with the other ones, and just color it in. And that's a really nice way of making clothes that are tight to the skin. You can also do sort of details with this, and it also doesn't attach it to the mesh, so you can always try it again. But you do have to remember to go into the original mesh and clear it when you're done. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of this edge here that's all thingy. You want to smooth that off. But if you go to sculpt mode, there's different ways of doing this, and I haven't figured out the perfect way yet. But that's why I kind of made it a little bit bigger, because you're going to have to smooth it to get it looking neat. And that will get rid of a lot of the sort of thickness. So just remember, if you haven't done that, I apologize for not mentioning it sooner. So yeah, you just got to make sure it's big enough to smooth off. So always just add that extra bit of depth just to be sure. Like I said, if anyone in the comments could actually tell me a way of increasing that edge, if you know, or if you figured out something yourself by playing around with it after my method, just drop me a message because I'd like to know. Because at the moment, that's the only way I know how to do it. So there's the bikini section for there. So it's nice and tight in. So I'll press Control Save, and like I said, it's going to be a really quick video for this one. So before we do the last bit of this, what we're going to do is join everything else together. So let's join everything up into the arms and the hands, and leave the head at this point, and just join it. And remember to go into your mesh settings and keep it to that, like the same as your body. Now, the reason I say this is just because the hands and feet are going to cause some issues. So for now, you just want to quickly do your sections here. Smooth them off and add any extras that, like I said before, if you need them. Biggest issue here is going to be oops, 1 second, I've just forgot. I forgot something myself here that I told you a minute ago, and I hope you noticed. But if you go to sculpt mode, remember to clear the mask before you do it, or it's not going to work correctly. So now all we're going to do is grab these sections again. Make sure you've got them ones selected, join them. And then let's do that again. And then, like I said, you just want to go through after you've done it. After you've remeshed it, go through it, make sure it's all joined. And the reason I do the joins after is because, like I said, if you're trying to mask on top of this, it's going to make it a lot harder to do. And with that, you've just seen how it's gone a little bit under, so you just want to move that a little bit. That way, it should look a bit like that. Nicely joined in. Like I said, if you need to add any more details, add some more details. And again, save along the way. I'm just going to quickly take a break here, and then we'll get back to the rest of it. So forgive the edit. Okay, sorry about that cut, but right. Okay, so what we're going to do next, just before we do that towel around, because we're nearly done. And the reason I want to do this a little bit separate is going to take a little bit of extra time. So if we look at our hands here, I'd actually say we probably want to just increase these ones. I was just kind of looking at them and I'm thinking maybe they should be a little bit longer. So just bring them out and just extend the length a little bit. Simple as that. We're going to be bringing this hand over in a minute anyway, so just delete that one. So similar to the other time, you just want to grab it all, grab the palm afterwards, press join. Now with these, because they're all close by, the computer is going to try and join these gaps. If they're really close, you'll have no choice but to have the lowest value. So if we go to sculpt mode, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in other videos, I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if it's come across, but these values, these are the things I'm talking about, where it's like 0.01. The lower the value, the better, because it's more detail, and that detail will stop it from going around here. If your gap's wide enough, you can get away with something like a 1. If your gap's not, you'll have to keep going down until eventually you get a value. I wouldn't suggest it goes any more than 0.4, but that's going to make it really high poly. So it's going to slow down your computer big time, but sometimes it's the only way to do it. So the best way to counteract it, and that's why I try and put my fingers a little bit gapped. If you have a look, I try and do that just because it stops it from happening. So what I'll do is I'll show you. If I go to number 2, if I go to a value of 2 and press remesh, you'll see that little bit climbing in here. That's attached in it. I've done pretty well with this gap. So what I could get away with, to be honest, is probably about a 1.5. And then all you're doing with that is going to smooth it with your settings. I'm not too fussed with that one joining anyway, because I can just bring it back a little bit and bring that one out a little bit. And all you're doing is just attaching them together. And just like any old hand, the crease in the middle bit On the bottom bit, it's going to be the same because it's actually where your fingers crease anyway. So all you need to do is make sure that these values are all looking as best they can to what a hand would look like. So you're just going to increase very minimal things. And you're going to do the same with the bottom section here. Smooth that bit off. Give it some gentle smoothing here, not too much like the others. And same with that one. And then you want a big time smooth of that. And you're essentially just going over until you get the hand look that you want. Just be careful, make sure all these bits are smoothed out. And just keep going over and over with the smooth until all these joins are gone. And then just, like I was saying a minute ago, go to your values and just sort of edit them enough to look correct. You just make your minor sort of adjustments because they went thin. Sometimes when you smooth them off, it will make it thinner. So you've just got to sort of add these in. And then once you've added them in, it's where you go into your crease tool. Forgive me, I pressed the wrong one there. And just add those sections so the join is correct. And then maybe you might need to add a little bit of creasage here and there. But this is where things get the most difficult, to be honest. Because all you wanted to do is make sure that section come all nicely around. And if you're finding, like I am there, that thumb's a little bit sort of a bit rubbish, just keep going around with the move tool. Just try and make it as best you can sort of in. The more detail you've got, you want to keep it a high value anyway. But we've kept them quite simple here, just so it looks correct and it's not overdone. And all you want to do, just keep going. Like I said, just make sure all these values are widened out. Sometimes you might have to quickly go in and out like this, because you'll find that once you've increased certain values, you're going to need to just quickly sort them out. And then if you need to, you're just dragging them around. And then what we'll do is we'll just add some creases in again here. Just make them correct. And then we're seeing a problem with that thumb there. And again, like I said, if you see these problems like I am, a good tip before doing this, to be honest, is to make these fingers just slightly thicker. Just don't make them too thick so you'll get that issue with the thingy, the joining. But you got something that looks like that. And if you want to add nails in, you can either add them in now like that. Just make sure you remesh when you've done all that. So you can add them in. Like that if you wanted, or the way I'd sort of add these in, because we're not doing it as an overly complicated character, is just add a little bit of nail to the end, if that makes sense. So just grab your tools and just add a little bit out, and your thumb goes that way. So just do that. And that way you've got a little bit more sort of detail, oops, a little bit more detail on it without causing too many issues. But I like that hand for the character. It doesn't have to be overly complex, like I said. You know, alternatively, I would have gone back originally and just made a little bit of that middle one here a bit straighter. But when you do put your mesh in, you just got to add it to one side. Not your mesh, your weight painting if you're doing that eventually. So it makes it a little bit more work, but it's fine. Again, this is just to show you what to do. So if you want to do it yourself, you can change it. And if you want to buy, I'll put this at the store when I've done. And if you want to buy it and animate it yourself to weight paint, you can do. So yeah, like I said, after you've done that, you just want to add you want to duplicate it and add it so so you're looking at slightly in. So that still needs a bit more. And then there you go. So you've done that, and you want to do the exact same thing with the toes. And the toes, unfortunately, are going to be a lot harder to do. And the reason that is because they're going to be a lot harder to do because they you don't have as much room to play with the gaps. Just want to pull them out a little bit more. You don't have enough room to play with the gaps, so you've just got to try and you really do have to try your best in trying to get the values. So you see how there's less gap there. If you go to sculpt mode after you've joined them, and let's say put a value of the same as what we did there, because I could probably see it not working. Oh no, so we're fine there. Look, 0.15. Like I said, ideally you want to have it as low value as you can, just because it will help in the end, especially when you come to doing your animations and that. Sometimes if you want to do automatic weight painting on auto rig or whatever it's called, something like that, it's called something similar. You will need to have it low poly, which you can change. Like I'll show you how to do later as well. But if you can get it low enough poly from the start, it's going to save you a lot of time. Well, we've done well there, to be honest. All you want to do is just have a quick mess around, make sure the values of these toes all come down correctly. Extend one or two, make sure that comes out like that. And then just smooth the entire section off. And just bring that a little bit more around. That a little bit more in. You're just trying to get as best you can that look of just the foot. I think I'll extend that one as well. But once you've got that, it's the similar thing to your hand. You just want to get your crease tools. Make sure. Sometimes you have to go plus and minus to make sure you're on the right setting. And all you're doing is just making sure you got a little bit of some room to walk with there. Maybe adding a little bit of the gap here. And to make the toes look correct, you want to do the same thing at the top. And then just lightly smooth them. And then similar to the, just going to move a bit more up here. Similar to the hand, if you want to get nail detail, you can add that in later yourself, but we're going to keep it quite simple here. I'm just going to add just a little slice on each toe. And then again, save, and then just doing what we did with the hand, duplicate the original. Control CV, mirror it. Always remember to mirror it if you're moving it to the opposite side. And try and get that same as that. So there you go. If you are a tiny bit out, don't worry too much. You just have to make those weight paints a little bit better. But I will say, just as much as you can, just try and get it exact. Now, when you think you've done with that, which I think I am, join them to the main body. Now, this is where the value thing comes a little bit more different. So you go to sculpt mode. Now, there's more mesh altogether here. So the more mesh and the more you've got there, you're actually, this value can be higher. So you just got, this is the point where you play with it a bit. So I'm going to go with, say, 2.5, see how much that is. So we don't want it to go too fast or too slow. And you're just looking between these toes and these hands. It'll take a second or two, and there you go. See, that's not worked. That's joined together. So you want to go back because it's too high of a value. And I think we'll stick with a 15, to be honest. I think it should work that way. Once it's remeshed, so you keep waiting. There you go. There's a little bit in that hand, but the toes look good. And always remember to take a good look, because if you do miss any, you'll be in trouble. But I'm confident that I can just go over that a little bit. And all you're doing is what you would do with every other bit on here. And once you've joined it, you're just making it all as one. Maybe doing a little bit of stuff like this, like I'm doing now, to make sure it's connected. Just always go on your other side to make sure things have come out properly. And with that hand, you also want to just make that in. Just make sure that section goes in. And then you just want to do the same with the feet. Just join them together, so it's all nicely one unit. Again, this is why I say keep one to the side. If you make any mistakes and you haven't noticed till later, you can always go back and get that original one. But now you've got one entire unit there. Now you can add the head this way if you want, which I will be doing. I just wanted to quickly control save. I wanted to show you something as well. I've joined the hair. We just want to take that hair away a sec, because we didn't before join these ears. So you want to do the same thing. So just go to your face, join, sculpt mode, and then keep that value the way it was for that. And then just make sure those ears are joined. And then save, bring the hair back. And realistically, again, if you're doing this for animation, or even if you're doing it for the other one, just join them together. And as you can see in these corners, this is where all your vertices values are. Go to sculpt mode. Because we've kept it quite simple and quite straightforward, and we've kept it neat along the way, those are quite good values that we've got so far. If you start doing, say, 0.5 for the boobs and then the neck at 0.7, you're going to have a load of issues with it joining later, and it'll just take a lot longer. So that's why I say keep it consistent. And because the face is 0.8, we're going to just prop it to 0.8, and we're just going to keep a look on that when it loads up. Because at the moment it's 2 million, when we just changed it to 5. I would say I'm happy with 5 as an overall. It's going to not work if I put it into a software to animate, I'd have to decimate it. But if I was to animate it myself, 2 million polygons is actually really nothing. So I'm absolutely fine with that. And I'll show you what happens if you keep those values well. So in the industry, if you want to get into the industry of animation, you're going to want to do the topology correct. So I wouldn't suggest sculpting if you're doing it that way, but you can actually change these. Personally, I don't know how to do it just yet, but the way I do it and the way I've showed you, if you go into sculpt mode, it would take a not sculpt edit mode. It would take a minute or two, but if you go into edit mode, because you've done it by the values I've said in parts, and like I said, every time it gets more, it's going to be higher values. So what you want to do, you just let it go to edit mode. I've saved it before just in case it crashes, but it shouldn't because I've done more. You see how it's quite dark, but if you go close to it, you'll see how neat the topology is. There's nothing really out of place and it's all joined and smooth together. It's all around the muscles and that. It's not perfect topology because this should all be quite neat. You can get it quite lower and a more detailed if you do it the old-fashioned way. Sculpting, I find you do tend to have more mesh, but it's just the way I like to do it because I like to sculpt rather than do the old ways. But you'll see all along the way it's neat and it's being going to be able to animate that and add weight paints. So it keeps it quite neat. But again, like I said, if you want to do it properly for the industry, I'd suggest going to other tutorials where you start doing it the sort of cube method and build body by polygons and then slowly add it. There is software out there that can also re-topology your products if you want to do it the AI way. But because I'm not that bothered, and like I said, if I'm doing my personal animations or I'm doing this for someone, they'll like to wait. That's perfectly fine to weight paint and animate the way it is. It's just an industry thing, just a little bit of heads up. So anyway, see that's all that done. Looks incredible to be honest. And then we know we're doing it quite nice. Like I said, there's no over the top about it. We're going to do the tail next. So with that, you just want to add mesh. You want to add a plane. And it seems strange, but this is the way you'll do clothes the old-fashioned way, or one of the ways you can do it. And you just add that plane, give it a rough size. I want the tail to go, say, up the leg and around the sort of bum here. So just get that and then put it around that value. And then go to edit mode, right-click, subdivide, and subdivide. Then select the edges here. So select this side and this side. And I'm also going to select that top bit. And then we're going to go into that next vertices and we're going to press E to extrude and then stop. E to extrude because you want to keep going it around. Stop. E to extrude there. And then just deselect the middle two. E to extrude. E to extrude. Don't worry if it doesn't match so far at the moment. And don't matter if it's very neat or not. And then just go E to extrude till it comes out to the other side. Because what we're going to do now is go back onto face, select all with A, and then subdivide it again. Because our method's going to be a bit quicker. We're going to go into sculpt mode at this point. Don't remess it yet. And just drag it around with your tools and get an overall sort of look for it. So like I said, we had it quite close. You can be a bit neater with this and have it. Just press smooth to sort of generate that a little bit more around. And just smooth it a little bit. And all we're doing, like I said, is all we're doing is bringing that all the way around. So we've got it covering where it should be. And just give it like an overall little sort of sway. And there's a reason why I haven't actually attached that bit to the back yet, because we've got that bit now. And then what we're going to do is grab that one, go to edit mode, take these sections here, maybe one more, and then we're going to E to extrude it, E to extrude it, E to extrude it, and then we'll take 4 on this side, because we're going to make it look like it's sort of tied up. And the best way to do that, to just do what I'm doing now, is just grab it, E to move out, E to move out. You do that a couple of times. Sculpt mode, and then just bring those around. Just change the size of this sculpt mode quick, and let's quickly bring these quite close together. Just make sure you smooth it a little bit. So they're almost joined, but not quite. Because this way, we're going to add in later a little knot. You just do that. Do that. Just like to keep scrunching that down until you get like a look like that. And then just smooth it around. So you've got like a nice little towel sort of look here. It looks like it's sort of resting on. And then just save that quick. And then this is the point where you go to edit mode again, select all, just subdivide it enough to get enough detail out of it. Then go to grab the faces, right click and extrude faces along normals. This is going to extrude them all slightly outwards. And once you've done that, just press save just in case. Then go to sculpt mode and do what you did before. And go to mesh size. I'm going to put this down to say a quite low value. So let's go to about 4. And then you're just going to smooth this all off, just like we did with the clothes. And it's going to have a similar way of doing it to the clothes. So if you want to make it a bit thicker, you can. And just smooth it all till you get a nice sort of look. And then just to make this towel a little bit easier, we're going to use, you can crease this yourself if you want, or you can do a little method here, which I'll use. We're going to bring this towel a little bit more down again, just make it a little bit bigger. And there's some nice tools in Blender that you can use. Try and just get that a little bit more round. Again, you could make this in the actual mesh way of doing things, but it's just a nice way of showing you how to do this. Just try and get it as close as you can to that body. And like I said, we're going to add a section for that in a minute. Just get it all out there. Just make sure you've got all that selected and done. And then what you want to do, just again, just make sure you save it. You can use this tool here. Where are we? The cloth tool. And just grab it and just move around. Just grab it and move the mesh around. And you get like wrinkles showing like a realistic cloth. Sort of. And you just want to keep doing that. And that way, you can get all these wrinkles in. Get like a cool effect. And if you just like twist it around a bit, and then Go back to your move tool. Just do the best you can to sort of thing it out and just give it a little bit of a smooth, not too much. If we go back a sec, the best way to do that is probably remesh it first. Remesh it to a really low value so it doesn't get any holes in it. I've done it a bit too low there. Didn't mean to that. My apologies. So if you do something like that, just wait for it to do it and then press Control Z. And then go back up to a value and pick it and just remesh. And I'm not going to remesh that actually because doing that technique is actually sort of crossed it out a little bit. So we'll just use a smooth. Don't worry about that. It was just something I was trying out, but just smooth it off a little bit. Don't make it look too creased. But just gives it that sort of cool look. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, all you're doing is going to grab that one where you add, bring the radius slightly big and high, and then just add a crease every now and then. Like that. You can do both methods like I'm doing here, and it actually does look pretty cool. So, and that just gives you like a towel look, or if you're doing like a pleated skirt, you can do that as well. Just gives you like a creasy look. And then every time you do that, you've got to just make sure you're going around your elastic deform tool and just trying to get it as close to that body as you can. And what we want to do is we want to just add that up a little bit more. We're going to have it behind that sort of line. Yep, so all we got to do now, if we just add a color to this, so let's make it, I mean, it's a bit random here, but we'll make it like a light pink. And just to make it look like it's tied, we're just going to add a mesh UV sphere, kind of like we did before. Edit mode, subdivide it once, sculpt mode, and do it in about a point. Well, we're going to add it straight away. So let's do it at 0.6. Enough to get enough detail, but enough to make it workable. And then just place that over here. And to make it look like it's tied over, just grab one and duplicate it and just put it to the side quick. But to make this look like it's been tied together, what you should do is go into the mesh mode, sculpt mode, get your elastic deform, sort of make it big and clumpy around where it was. So best you can, sort of edit that together like that. Make it look like those two parts have been crossed over. And then again, you can do this however you want. You don't have to do this method. Again, it's just to show you what to do. Just make it look like it's creased over like that. And then if you want, just add a small line around it to make it look like it's going across. And then similar to what you would do with the other one, just get your tools here and just do a little bit of creasing. Mainly there and there, make it look like it's all been sort of messed around. Quickly add your colour. We'll add the colour first and then we'll just do something quick afterwards. And we just want to shrink it a little bit so it doesn't go too much into that. And then just because the reason why I've done it like that is just and put one to the side is because there's going to be if you think about when a towel gets wrapped, there'll be like a little bit of that wrap towel coming out, if that makes sense. So you just go to sculpt mode, go to your deform tool, just make it look like there's a little bit of that leftover sort of tied towel coming out, just a little bit like that. And just sort of mold it into that one. So it looks like it's going to go underneath. And then just mess around with it again. It's all down to what you think it should look like. Make it look like it's part of that towel. And then go to sculpt mode. Sorry, not sculpt mode, go to color, add some color, Control C, Control V, and then move this on the Y axis. And then just place another one the opposite way. And if you need to go back into sculpt mode, always make sure that one's selected properly. You'll know it's selected properly with the orange. And then just go into your tools and just give it a little bit of a mess around and change it so it doesn't look exactly like the other one. And then after you've done that, say that one needs a little bit of a squeeze back as well. After you've done that, you're done. That's all you need to do. So that's just a quick example of how you would do something extra. And just grab all them and join them together so that if you wanted, you can take it off or you can add it in. So there you go. So there's that. Right, I'm just going to quickly check the time. 34. We've got enough time. I did mention, like I said, on the other one, I didn't mention something. So we're going to quickly add here. We're going to quickly add some eyes. So just go into sculpt mode. Um, and we'll just give her some, say, blue eyes. And just make these, always make these so it goes around. And then just add black. And just add like one of them in. And then maybe a bit of white just to. That just gives her a little bit of extra eye there to make it look a bit cooler. Just duplicate that one, CV, mirror, X, and you'll notice that what I missed out was actually pretty obvious in the end. It's the eyelashes. To do eyelashes, what I actually like to do nowadays is you could put them in if you wanted, but if you get a UV sphere, go to sculpt mode and just add a nice basic sculpt on it. So like, say a 7. Object mode, then place it so small next to this eye. And then sort of lengthen it out like that. Squeeze it down a little bit. Then go to sculpt mode and get your elastic deform tool and bend it around kind of like you did with the eyebrow. So you just want to crease that around. Remembering to remesh every time you do it. Just be careful because sometimes it can actually be quite hard to do. Because as you can see, for all you're trying to do, get as much as that around as you can. Like I said, make sure you've got the right sort of section on it. Just keep bringing it round. Get that shape together that you want. And then just sort of have it out a little bit. Again, it's all dependent on how you want your eyelashes to look. If you want them to look a bit more realistic, you can go down that route. And just do that until you get something quite like that. Like I said, you've got to always remember to remesh once it gets a certain level. And there you go, you've got that. And then just to add some sort of bits on it, just go to this snake tool and just pull out a few sections. If you want. You don't have to do that. And then use the tool here to make it black. And then add it in. And then just to, if you want to say, give it a little bit of a cheat. So I'm just going to add a little bit more down here. And just move it out a little bit if you think it needs. Always remesh if you need to get it like that. Just gets those points a little bit better. And then, like I said, if you want to give it a little bit of a cheat, you just Control C, Control V, mirror it on the Z axis, drop it down, and go to sculpt mode. And just sort of move it around a little bit until it's a little bit different. Because if you see that, you want it to come a bit more out and around. Probably like that. And again, it's just working with that. Keep messing it around until you get the look you want. And I'd just say maybe this one should be a little bit more this way. Yep, and then that's done. And then you can Control C, Control V these over so they match the other one. And you've just got a nice pair of eyelashes, a nice quick one. I'm going to do one last thing, and if we go to sculpt mode here, we'll give her some sort of coloured lips just to make it look a bit more normal. She looks a little bit off at the moment without it, so just give her some. Just quickly draw some of these in. And that's it, basically. I mean, once we've done that, if you wanted to, you can actually separate this mouth using the mesh extract. What I mean by that is you can just open it up so it can be animated. Um, but we're not going to do that today on this one. I might do that in another tutorial, but there's many ways to do it as well anyway. If you just sort of model the face of the mouth it's open with the same sort of technique, you can move it so it's flat afterwards. But as you can see, there you go. That's the face, the hair, the body, a little bikini section, and it's just as simple as that. And then, like I said, if you want to go to each setting, you can go to matte cap, which is cool if you want, say, something like to make it look like a comic book, or your studio lights, which are probably the best for modeling the item itself. Or you can go to flat, which is some of my favorite ones, to be honest. Get your sections down, move it around a little bit so you can get a little bit of depth. And to enrichen the cavities here. Um, sort of have it sort of like that. But either way, like I said, it's what you want to make it look like. So I think I'll probably keep it on studio for now. The studio just gets that real sort of look on it. Sort of semi-realistic look here, like I said before. Simple as that. So once you've done that, you've got your whole character done. She's all ready to go and in a T-pose, ready to animate if you wanted to animate her. You know? So, like I said, it's all about going through it and, like I'd say, making just one little thing here. Just make sure you get those armpit sections a bit under. But yeah, like I said, it's all up to you at this point. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I think the end results looks pretty good. And it really does get you that overall sort of how it looks. If you want to join the hair, you can make that look all smooth as well. But if you want to animate the hair as well, you might want to just be careful with joining that all together. But like I said, it's all down to you at this point. This is just a tutorial to show you how to do it. You can follow this exact one, or you can use the basis of what I've been doing to make your own characters. Look forward to hearing any comments, seeing some results if you want to send me them on Instagram. But like I said, I'll put this one up on my Buy Me a Coffee if you want to buy it to animate it or to basically just have a look at it. Because if you buy it for a couple of quid and then you can see the end result, see how things have gone together, make some small changes if you want to help you learn. Or like I said, you can just drop me a small bit of money on there to help me out. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, before I go, if there's any ideas for tutorials that you want me to do, or you haven't understood something and you want me to go into it further, just write down in the comment section and I'll try and get to it. And if not, just have a look at more of my other fast model commentary videos. Thanks very much for watching. See ya.